I bet you thought you could avoid demons and Satan by not practicing witchcraft in the occult, or avoid it by burning your tarot cards. Maybe you thought you were safe when you threw out your Dungeons and Dragons books. Maybe you stopped listening to Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden. But no, that was not enough. Satan lurks in all music, even the Beatles. That's right, it's no longer safe to listen to Hey Jude. Hello my friends, and welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am a pagan occultist who enjoys studying all things esoteric and laughing at fundamentalists who like to tell us what is and what is not satanic. Hint, everything not in the Bible is satanic. Today, we get to see our old friend Joe Schemmel. Our old friend Joe of Good Fight Ministries back in his heyday, where his mullet was all the rage. Jesus in the front and Judas in the back. In this blast from the past, we get to see him preaching about the demonic and evil music of John Lennon and the Beatles. There is also a bingo card associated with this video. If you would like to play along, you can download an interactive card from my website or scan the barcode to open the interactive card on your mobile device. Details are below. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy.
There's a lot of people, and I'm talking in the tens of millions, okay? We could talk about hundreds of millions that are in bondage to rock music.
Tens of millions, hundreds of millions in bondage to rock and roll music. I would love to see your statistics for this.
That are in bondage to satanic philosophy. And it's that which we're seeking to expose at this time.
Satanic bondage. Kinky. You know, some of those might not want to escape this satanic bondage. And there are others who would pay good money to be in satanic bondage.
And you're going to see a lot of ugly stuff tonight.
Don't worry, my audience knows what they are getting themselves into. Many of them have seen me respond to your videos before. Joe and his mullet may cause nausea and even vomiting.
But I tell you what, ultimately, Jesus Christ reigns in heaven, and he's coming back to establish his reign on this planet and destroy the Antichrist. So we can rest assured in that.
What is the ETA on that second coming anyway?
So take heart, if you're serving the Lord Jesus Christ, guess who wins? Just read the back of the book of Revelation, and it's the Lord Jesus Christ.
I like how you assume that rock music is satanic and that Jesus cares. When Jesus does return, that he is going to punish all of those who listen to rock music at the end of the world. I read nothing about music being satanic in the Bible, let alone in Revelations.
In fact, it's interesting because a lot of people are under the impression, especially people that were into the Beatles or the Rolling Stones in the 60s, they're under the impression that, well, the Beatles and the Stones didn't get along because in some interviews they acted like they were enemies.
I didn't know this, and I don't care. Rock stars may have had rivalries, just like anyone else does.
But that's not true at all. It was projected as though, yeah, the Rolling Stones are evil and the Beatles are good.
I've never placed a judgment on the Rolling Stones as being evil or the Beatles as being good.
I believe that was just a ploy of Satan.
Really? You believe it's a ploy of Satan? What a shock.
The two bands actually worked together for Satanic Revolution, and you'll see that in a minute.
Well, I'm glad they were able to set their differences aside and unite under the banner of our Dark Lord.
And the Beatles were as wicked.
We're wicked! Wicked! Wicked!
As the Rolling Stones. In fact, let's look at the Beatles' philosophy. This is from the Playboy interviews, a little book that came out of all the interviews that John Lennon had given just before his death. And John Lennon sums up the Beatles' philosophy.
The Beatles, as a band, got together one day and decided upon a united philosophy, and John Lennon decided to codify it. Joe here is going to cherry pick a phrase, take it out of context, and then twist the words.
He says, in his answer, he says, the whole Beatle idea was to do what you want, right? To take your own responsibility, do what you want, and try not to harm other people, right? Do what thou wilt, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Okay? Hurt somebody. Get that quote right.
What a surprise. You cherry-picked a phrase and took it out of context. All you need to do now is twist the words. And it reads whilst, not wilt.
Well, they hurt a lot of people, okay? Music seems fun and innocent, but look, you guys, look what's happening.
You are right. So many injuries caused by dancing to music happen all the time. Think of all the pulled groins, pulled hamstrings, not to mention the outbreak of boogie fever.
Look what's happening all over the planet right now.
I forget exactly what were the threats to mankind attributed to Satan at this time, but I'm pretty sure this took place during the Satanic Panic, so he may be referring to that.
When you minister to not only kids but adults, a lot of their problems are a result of what they've been plugging their head into for years, okay?
It's that damn devil's music.
Because rather than spending time with Jesus on their knees,
spending time with Jesus on their knees? This took an unexpected turn.
or in the Word and seeking the Lord or worshiping Him with songs of praise that bring great joy and uplift the heart, people have been duped into these lies.
What lies? You know the Beatles weren't claiming some kind of truth in their music, right?
Okay? John Lennon was just quoting Crowley's favorite words, do what thou wilt.
There it is, the trifecta. Cherry pick, take it out of context, and now twist his words.
It's interesting, right here we see the Beatles featuring Tony Sheridan. An album featuring Tony Sheridan. Tony Sheridan knew John Lennon, and Tony Sheridan came out and told, it's recorded in a book called Lennon.
Not another cherry-picked quote.
Written by Ray Coleman. He used to be a writer for Melody Maker, a rock magazine in England. And he says, in a chance remark to a British musician he greatly admired, Tony Sheridan, John said as the Beatles' success grew, quote, "I've sold my soul to the devil," unquote.
Do you think he might have been joking, speaking metaphorically? Because in order to be a successful musician, you have to dedicate so much, and fame can take a heavy toll. I doubt he whipped out a contract with the devil and signed it in his own blood.
Well, what's interesting about this is there's a lot of proof to back up that John Lennon admitted and understood that he was involved in Spiritism.
Oh no, he held certain beliefs and philosophies about life, death, and the spiritual realm. And the police didn't arrest him? Did anyone notify the FBI or Scotland Yard?
In fact, he considered Yoko Ono his Don Juan, okay, of his guru.
Oh, for fuck's sake, just read the damn cherry-picked quote already.
And she said in the same Playboy interviews, she said of the Beatles' success, she says, more than anything, it was a time and the place when the Beatles came up. Something did happen there. It was a kind of chemical. It was as if several people gathered around a table and a ghost appeared.
And in the Bible, allegedly people saw a man rise from the dead after 3 days. In fact, several times it is recorded that people saw ghosts or spirits. Luke 24:37, 1 Samuel 28:7, Matthew 27:52 through 53.
It was that kind of communication. So they were like mediums in a way. It was more than 4 people. A little further down, she says, they were like mediums. They weren't conscious of all they were saying, but it was coming through them.
Lots of people believe God or Jesus speaks through them. What's so special about it happening to Yoko Ono?
You bet it was coming through them. In fact, John Lennon, in the same interviews, when he writes some of his music, he says of it, quote, "It's like being possessed, like a psychic or a medium."
And in the Bible, Saul summoned the deceased prophet Samuel. I fail to see your point.
We have a book here by Albert Goldman, which was a real popular book on John Lennon, called The Lives of John Lennon. And in this book, it talks about how Yoko Ono, it's also in John Green's book, who was their tarot card reader, who went down to South America with Yoko Ono. Both books talk about how Yoko Ono journeyed to South America to make a pact with Satan.
Okay, now I'm calling bullshit. Are you going to give us any actual proof of this, or keep quoting a secondhand source? And why would Yoko Ono have to travel to South America to make a pact with Satan? Was it wintertime in New York, and so Satan was vacationing in Chile?
For a number of things, including John Lennon's career. Listen to what happened. Finally, it was time to consummate all these spells by making a living sacrifice and signing a pact with the devil. For Lena was not a white witch. She was the real thing, a practitioner of black magic. There was no knowing what she planned to do to seal the bond with Lucifer. All she would say was that the witch's moon was nigh and they had to make ready for the sacrifice. Then they sacrificed an animal.
It sounds like she enlisted the aid of a practitioner of Santeria. That is, if the story from this book is 100% accurate. Mullet Man here is making a genetic fallacy. Just because Yoko Ono or John Lennon may have had flaws does not mean the Beatles or rock music are by default flawed too.
And she ended up paying the witch $60,000, okay? Which wasn't much to John Lennon.
If anyone wants to be a famous rock star, just pay me $60,000 and you won't even have to sacrifice anything. Well, except maybe a bucket of Popeye's fried chicken.
In fact, Goldman calls that book The Lives of John Lennon. And the reason he calls it The Lives of John Lennon is he realizes, he uses a quote that's used by other biographers of John Lennon, where Lennon said, "It was like I was a hollow temple, and one spirit would possess me, then it would leave, and another would come and leave, and another would come."
So what? Many people believe the body is a temple and that their spirit or their soul inhabits it. This is nothing new. I could not find any quote where the author of this controversial book made this claim. You are jumping to a conclusion.
Interestingly about that quote is he calls it The Lives of John Lennon because his music came out in so many different ways.
Hold on a second. Why did Goldman name his controversial book The Lives of John Lennon?
Goldman calls that book The Lives of John Lennon. And the reason he calls it The Lives of John Lennon is he realizes, he uses a quote that's used by other biographers of John Lennon, where Lennon said, "It was like I was a hollow temple, and one spirit would possess me, then it would leave, and another would come and leave, and another would come."
Because you have given us two separate conclusions. Which one is it?
And his life was portrayed in so many different ways. And now Goldman, as a secularist, tries to pass this off as mere archetypes of the subconscious mind.
You've already assigned two different reasons for the author titling this book, and now you are twisting his words.
And not real spirits. But look what we're seeing, you guys. We're seeing the same common denominator over and over and over again.
No, we are seeing you cherry-pick quotes out of context and twisting not only the words of the subject, John Lennon, but also now putting words in the mouth of the author. John Lennon was not possessed by evil spirits.
And Lennon identified them as, he was into the spirit world. He was into Aleister Crowley.
Ah, yes, invoke the name of Aleister Crowley. Your Christian audience back in the 90s probably couldn't name any of Crowley's books.
Let's move on and let's see how the Beatles and the Rolling Stones worked together for Satanic Revolution.
The Satanic Revolution will not be televised. Could you define what a Satanic Revolution is before you start condemning the Rolling Stones for making music?
Right here we see John Lennon in his own right, a Spaniard in the works, and we've heard the quote over and over again about what Lennon believed about, the Beatles and so forth. You've heard the quote, "We're more popular than Jesus now," and a lot of people have said, hey, well, he wasn't really meaning that. But they never quote the rest of the quote. He said, "Christianity will vanish." He was very anti-Christ.
In his mind, at that time, he may have remarked that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. His criticism seems to be of the followers and not the institution. Christianity will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right and I'll be proved right. We're more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity. Jesus was all right, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruins it for me. At the end of this quote, he says Jesus was all right, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruins it for me. He's making a distinction between Jesus and the religious followers, much like how preachers such as yourself twist the Bible to suit your agenda, ignoring some verses and uplifting others.
In fact, Derek Taylor, their press officer, said, "The Beatles shock me." He said they're completely Antichrist. He goes, "Well, I'm Antichrist too, but they're so Antichrist they shock me."
Are we supposed to take your word for this? What was the context? Can you share the entire quote with us? Maybe you are not remembering it correctly. You sure do rely upon anecdotal, secondhand critiques and opinions to draw your conclusions.
Okay, well, in his own right, let's read some of what Lennon said. He says right here, "Jesus wiped the spit from his face and turned the other cheese." He's using some sick humor here. He goes down a little bit further and says, refers to him as a garlic-eating, stinking, little, yellow, greasy fascist, B-A-S-T-A-R-D.
Bastard. The word you're looking for is bastard.
Oh, look at the cute little bastard!
Let me pull this quote up again. This must have had some important context. You are assigning different meaning to this word. First off, he is making a play on words. There's obviously some important missing context here. It makes no sense. And the fat, greasy little bastard he is referring to is a Spaniard.
If that's not enough, in this part of the book, he blasphemes the Holy Ghost and says, and in the name of the Father, Sock, and Mickey Most, I forgive you, sweet brother.
Do you not have any sense of humor? Obviously, this is a continuation of this weird play on words. He's not blaspheming Jesus or your God. He's playing with word sounds.
Okay? He had a lot of hatred. In fact, Goldman, who has no axe to grind, is not even a Christian, upset because John Lennon is spewing all kinds of ugly stuff against Jesus Christ, says that Lennon was a man with peace on his lips, but war in his heart. Okay. Wake up, you guys!
I don't think he had a hatred for Jesus. He probably had criticisms of organized religion. Even if he did, so what? There are a lot of people who criticize Christianity. Not really much has changed. Good Fight Ministries does the same thing today as Joe did back in the day. Cherry picks a quote, takes it out of context, and twists the meaning. Not really much has changed. Here is a list of the bingo phrases from the video. Good luck to those who played along. And if you got bingo, take a screenshot of it and email me with the winning image and I will shout it out in the next video. Until next time, my friends, I will see you in hell, you heathens.
They say we cast our spells in the dark, that we worship demons in the park, but the truth is so much more than lies, a path of wisdom, no disguise. We honor